Hello, and welcome to Uncle Ray's Psychedelic Soul, my web series. Starting at the very beginning with me in Franklin Lake and my sister Laura. It's 1967, the summer of love, and we are just kicking it in the town we would move to a year later. There's my dad, Malcolm Wilcox. People person if there ever was one. He's got a heart of a lion, and he worked harder than anyone else I've ever met, just so my family could have an extremely comfortable life. As far as my early musical influences, my dad actually was tone deaf, and my sister had perfect pitch. So he would sing her songs, and she'd come back and sing them to my mom and I, and they sounded awful. But actually, I ended up learning harmony from my sister because she's kind of a musical genius. There I am kicking it in Teaneck, New Jersey. This is right before we moved to Franklin Lakes that I mentioned before, home of the Jersey Housewives, which resembled no one I ever knew from Franklin Lakes, New Jersey. Those housewives couldn't hold a candle to my mother. So here's my cousin Robbie. He is very significant to the story. Stay tuned. And of course my mom, she's very important in the story. She was probably holding the camera for the first part of the video. So we're going back a few years again to Teaneck, but here's what's under the Christmas tree at the Wilcox house. There's some bongos right in the center of things, and I'm holding a maraca. It's a little dark, I know, but there's also a Mary Poppins LP that I think I still have. So music was very popular around the Wilcox home. There's the tree, and little Ray so happy to see all the toys, and Laura displaying anything. Wait, what's this? Is it a guitar? Yes, I love it. Give me that thing. And then, as would usually happen, Laura would take it away and be like, no, look at all this other great stuff. There's all kinds of cool things. There's this lawnmower that Dad got you. I don't know. Where's the guitar at? Yeah, I like the guitar. And Mom would be like, well, there's this airplane, and that's kind of cool. I was like, yeah, that is kind of cool. But where's that guitar at? Hey, wasn't that? Yeah, there it is. Ah, yeah.
I always sang to you, so music was always a part of our home. And when you were about 2.5 years old, your cousin Robbie gave you a 45 RPM record player and a stack of records. And I couldn't remember what any of the records were, but that was probably in 1968. And you would go out on the little porch we had that was about 9 by 12, and I could close the door and go in and do things I wanted to do without you around, and you would stay out there playing records for hours at a time. You were always happy to have your records.
Hey, it's close and play.
Yep, that was pretty much my first favorite toy, the close and play. I remember the stack of records. There was Light My Fire and For Once in My Life and some Temptations.
And we moved that year in October, and instead of being smart enough to keep the record player out, the moving van was late, and by the time it got to our new house, it was like 8 o'clock at night, and all the bedrooms were in the back of the truck, and you kept saying, where's my record player? Where's my record player?
And there was some Beatles in there and some Stones, of course, and I remember Sopwith Camel. Did I say that right? The Flight of the Red Baron.
And finally, they got to the end of the thing, and your record player was there, but you probably fell asleep before you could play any records. So music was always a thing. And when you were, I would say you had your first music lessons when you were probably 7 or 8, and we bought you a set of drums. And from then on, music was always a big part of your life.
Remember, close and play. It's not for mom or dad or big sister. Kenner's close and play photograph is just for you. Hey, it's close and play. Records not in
Yeah, records not included, of course. Well, I was obsessed from a young age. As a little guy listening to the transistor radio, I was into music. And I had a great life, living in the suburbs. I had a dog that had puppies when I was a kid. How could I not show you that? I mean, here's the 8mm proof right in front of you. So I grew up nice in the suburbs. I was always obsessed with music and buying 45s, listening to American Top 40 at a young age. I got my nickname Uncle Ray from the beach with my friends, the Barron's Boys, who I towered over. And we were fascinated when we met a kid one summer on the beach who was uncle to a guy that was like 20 years older than him. Anyway, I grew up lucky with a pool in my backyard. We got to go on vacation all the time, and I even went to the 1978 World Series where I rooted for the Dodgers because my mom was a huge Brooklyn Dodgers fan and wouldn't let me be a Yankees fan. There I am trick-or-treating as a six-pack of Michelob beer. Isn't that nice? Anyway, this is my first gig. It was at an 8th grade dance. I sang Heartbreak Hotel, and I was hooked. This stage had me forever. There was no turning back. I continued to do lots of other things I loved, like played football, but then I quit after a while. Here I am with my dear friend Jeff DeCourt. He was the vice president to my president in high school. We got into theater together. We lived next door to each other. And, a whole bunch of other things started to happen at that point. The Pedestrians were born. Put together with my best friend growing up, Chris Behrens, who played keyboard. We conjured up this idea, and we got a bunch of guys from all over town. Joe Langan, there in the middle, taught me guitar. He had a Black Beauty Les Paul, and he was really good. So that's Ethan singing. He was a grade older than us, and we added a bunch of people to the band after we got going. We had original drummer Tim Broderick, but he wasn't working out so well, so we got this guy Nuke Burns. And we were in the basement practicing and playing and learning songs, and there's my friend Willie Gilson, who also sang with us. He brought the teen heartthrob to the band along with Ethan. And there's our first gig at Jen Winter's house in her basement with original drummer Tim Broderick. There's me with my Ibanez Iceman, and as you will see, the band had Joe Langan from Wyckoff, who brought us Rob Corcoran, who played bass and sang, and you see Willie there too, and we played a whole bunch of gigs. It was a good time. A lot of Sweet 16 parties, a lot of church dances.
You started playing gigs, and the best part of it was, well, maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but remembering that one night, on a Friday night, I guess, you played a gig and you came home with the band, and it was 11 o'clock at night, and of course, somebody came up with the name The Whip because I used to come downstairs when you were practicing and tell you guys to get busy and get off the phone and get rid of the girl in the back room there with the whatever and get to practicing. So I was known as The Whip. But anyway, you came home and you were downstairs, you wanted to know if the whip was awake, and you came upstairs and you had two large brown paper grocery bags full of money, and you dumped it on my bed, and you repaid me the $1,000.
Yeah, I thought
By
that was...
dumping $1,000 bills on my bed. That was pretty nice.
And I think one of the biggest things you ever did was you found out that
At Christmas time.
you found out at Christmas time that they weren't going to be able to bring the children in from Patterson as they did every year. They bring busloads of kids, and each kid would be assigned to a high school person, and then they would go around with you that day, and they would have a big lunch in the cafeteria, and you played Santa Claus. And so, but what happened was they didn't have the money, so you went to the principal and said, could my band play a benefit concert, and we'll raise the money for this thing, so, because they needed $500 to do this. Now, of course, this is
To pay the buses.
40 years ago or 35 years ago. And so he said, oh, you'll never be able to raise enough money. And you said, well, can't you let us try? And he said, all right. So you had the benefit concert. You got enough money for that Christmas and for the next Christmas. And you played a lot of gigs during high school. You even went to the famous gig in New York at the World Trade Center, Christy Stanton's 16th birthday party. And you played at the World Trade Center.
Yeah.
That was in
It took-
it was probably just before you graduated, so that was in 1983.
Took a big-
So here's our dear friend Jillian, who was also in the band. She was best friends with Ethan, who lived around the corner from each other in Wyckoff. And this is a show from the Indian Trail Club. There is original founder of the Pedestrians, Chris, singing to Alicia, our old dear friend. And it looks like, again, everybody that was ever in the band was at the show somehow. There's Rob Corcoran, but I saw a picture of myself playing bass earlier, so who knows. Thanks, Tim Collins, for the photographs. Here is our portrait. The band at its thickest, with the official logo sign in the background there on the right. I had some footage that I was really excited to share, but I had a hard time transferring it with the sound. So the Pedestrians got together with all the original members in 1987 at my house, right after I graduated from college, right before I moved to San Francisco. Here's Rob Corcoran, who is no longer with us, and I'm dedicating my first episode to him. There's his buddy Joe, who he and I share birthdays, and he's always been a great friend to me. There's Chris, original member, who I've known since preschool. And Nuclear Burns was in the middle there. You'll see him again singing with me. And on the back porch that day, Paul Fisher was there, who's playing the sax solo on guitar right now. And there's original drummer Tim Broderick, who was a champ to come to the reunion. It was great to see him. He's an awesome guy. And there was nothing really worth playing from this videotape because we were just messing around, and nothing sounded particularly great, but there is a clip of us playing at the senior talent show that is really rough videotape, but you can kind of hear what's going down. I haven't figured out how to transfer it yet, but I will do it, and I will put it up, I promise. And I hope you will come tune in again to the next Uncle Ray's Psychedelic Soul, the video series about my musical life from New Jersey to San Francisco and all over the world. Thanks for tuning in. And also, if you'd like, tune into my podcast and radio show on radiovalencia.fm under the same name, Uncle Ray's Psychedelic Soul. It's on every Monday from 10 to noon Pacific Standard Time.